I'm a front-end engineer, and for the vast majority of the time since I got this piece of paper, which ominously yeeted itself off the wall whilst I was vibe coding one day, I have been building Angular applications and generally working within that ecosystem. And I think it must be sometime around a decade of working in Angular that you start to feel the pull of either buying a hobby farm or getting into game dev. So over the past year, I've been spending a lot of time building a pretty large and ambitious survival game with JavaScript called Once Upon a Swagman. And it has changed my perspective on AI coding a lot, and I'd like to share some of those thoughts in this video. What I am bringing you in this video is my own personal perspective informed by my own limited circumstances. These are opinions, and I'm going to be a bit liberal with these opinions, so please don't think I'm trying to make some substantiated claims about the industry or where it's heading. These are generally going to be more like shower thoughts. But I think there is at least some useful perspective here. I think any moment where you change your mind about something is interesting, and I certainly feel like I've expanded my field of view in the AI fog of war significantly over the past year. The things I'm going to talk about and the key insights I feel like I've gained over this past year of building a massive game project will be broadly covered under these 3 points. AI coding really can 10x productivity and open otherwise inaccessible opportunities under the right circumstances. The ancient Greeks had the right idea for managing AI code, and front-end devs might actually be in a pretty good position for AI. So let's start with the 10x productivity point. For my day-to-day Angular work, I just wasn't finding much benefit in utilizing AI coding. I still don't. And as we'll talk about in a moment, I think I know more precisely why that is now. But I went from barely using AI, mostly only using it for brainstorming type of discussions or help on some particular thing I was stuck on, to, in the context of developing this game, using it enough to hit the Gemini and ChatGPT usage limits. And I haven't just been using these tools in a vibe coding prompt and pray sort of approach where I just end up with garbage, unmaintainable code or some small prototype. I've built a massive and complex product so far that is smooth, performant, easy to maintain and understand, and have had effectively no real issues with bugs or a frustrating development cycle. And I think that has a lot to do with my second point about the ancient Greeks that we will get to shortly. Now, I don't want to give the wrong impression here. It's not like AI is just spitting out perfect code for me whilst I kick back and watch StarCraft 2 videos. For every 1 hour I spend vibe coding, I probably spend another 4 to 6 hours heavily leaning into the programming skills I've built up over 20 years or so to add to or refactor AI code. I also feel like the suggestions and feedback I give to LLMs also often heavily lean on existing knowledge. So I'm definitely not trying to say that software engineers are done and vibe coders are the future. But given this 1:6 ratio, it might give the impression that AI coding has only been mildly beneficial to me here, but I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's fair to say that I've been able to build this product 5 times or even 10 times quicker, and the resulting quality is significantly better than what I could have achieved on my own. To make a rough generalization, I feel like 1 hour of vibe coding combined with 6 hours of normal coding can produce an output I would have struggled to create with 50 plus hours of my time directly. And in some cases, I just straight up wouldn't have had the skills to build certain features. So let me give some specific examples. I wrote my own JavaScript implementation of the wave function collapse algorithm, which I use for generating terrain procedurally. And this was based on a Python implementation by Robert Heaton. I did this a while ago before AI coding tools were any good, and it took me a long time. I don't remember exactly, but I probably worked on it for over a week or so, and it worked okay, but it was slow. The task that I ideally needed to be done almost instantly with this algorithm was taking around 6 seconds. Later, I asked AI to create a more optimized one, and in one prompt it created a version that was approximately 10 times faster with bit shifting optimizations that I don't understand at all. Now, there is definitely value in the learning that occurred as I worked on this algorithm, and that's probably another conversation to have. But this is a case where AI coding would have saved tens of hours and produced a result that is significantly better. And I think the downsides here are minimal. We will get into this a bit more in my final point, but this algorithm is very much a black box. There are benefits to me knowing and understanding how it works, but not ones that really impact my ability to build or maintain this product. I don't really need to know how this algorithm works because it doesn't affect my project's overall architecture. If there was a pre-existing open source solution to do what this algorithm is doing, I would have just installed that and called wfc.generateTerrain or whatever and been happy with that. Another huge win I had was when I needed to bake shader effects into static animations to save on performance. Again, with a one-shot prompt, I get this tool that allows me to upload a sprite, supply a shader, tweak parameters, and export a sprite sheet with that shader effect baked in as an animation. Developing a tool like this probably would have taken me weeks, and now it is saving me an enormous amount of time. Then there is the water and other shaders in my game. I'm nowhere near good enough with GLSL to create water that looks this good. This one wasn't quite a one-shot prompt situation. I iterated on this for quite a while with AI and did have to actually utilize some of my own knowledge of GLSL and some of my own ideas on how to achieve the effect. But again, the end result is something I'm quite sure I could not have achieved myself, at least not in any reasonable time frame. So these are sort of big and obvious examples, but in general I've found a lot of success with rapidly building out new features with AI coding tools. And one thing I find particularly cool and powerful, especially in a game dev context, where often problems and their solutions are going to be much more novel, is that I can have some half-baked idea that may or may not be viable. I might not want to risk spending 2 weeks testing out this idea only to find out that it's not viable. But even if the code is dodgy, if I can verify that some idea actually works or will probably work in a couple of hours with AI, I will then gladly spend 2 weeks or more refactoring and completing that code. So that perhaps helps paint the potential positives of using AI tools, but now let's focus on the point about the ancient Greeks, where things can go wrong and how to prevent that. Now forgive me for the inevitable historical and tactical inaccuracies here, but I think the analogy works well even if it's not entirely accurate. So imagine a tight, ordered group of soldiers, like the phalanx that was wildly successful in ancient battles. We can think of this as representing our code base in a well-structured, efficient, and maintainable state. The downside of the phalanx for all its power, and the same generally goes for creating well-structured code, is that it is slower and less maneuverable than someone Leroy Jenkinsing their way into battle. So, perhaps like the ancient Spartans, we may sometimes, to great effect, charge forward, somewhat losing the structure and power of the well-organized formation we had, but making quick progress. This is sort of what ends up happening if you spend an hour vibe coding with AI. The chaos introduced by these pushes to develop new features in a codebase is not unique to coding with AI tools, it's really just the age-old problem of tech debt. But AI tools can greatly magnify the degree of chaos that is introduced. A big part of the problem being that if you are perhaps leaning too heavily into vibe coding, you might not even be aware that the chaos is being introduced until it is too late. The important step here, and what I am implying the ancient Greeks and others got right about AI coding, is that after the charge, there is the regrouping back into the strong and well-organized phalanx structure. And that is where that 6 hours of manual coding for every 1 hour of AI coding comes from. It is getting the code base back in a state that is consistent, structured, and understandable, and getting it ready for the next charge. The temptation though, especially if everything is working, and especially if you're working to tight deadlines, is to just keep charging. But the codebase will become more and more chaotic. Eventually even the AI tools will start failing you and creating more chaos at an accelerated rate. And the work required to regroup at that point is so great that you'll probably just need a complete rewrite. Or you quit your job to find a position at another company in order to avoid the mess you've made, only to discover you were hired to fix someone else's AI mess. So the key here is to regroup and restructure your codebase into a consistent and structured state after charging forward, with or without AI tools. But how do you actually do that? This brings me to my point about why front-end developers might actually be well positioned for this. Specifically those building applications with complex state and data flows in Angular, React, Vue, Svelte, or whatever else. Fundamentally, my point here is that AI is generally really good at this, but often sucks at this. If you are getting an LLM to help with this, it's probably going to be low risk and work out well. If you are getting an LLM to help with this, it might still do a good job sometimes, but if you have ceded control to the LLM and are entirely relying on it for this part, then it is a recipe for complete formation collapse. If you can give an LLM a well-defined black box style task, like the examples I gave of the wave function collapse algorithm, or the animation tool, or the water shader, it generally does a great job. And the great thing about these tasks is that it doesn't matter so much how the AI codes these black box style features. If they work, they work. Ideally, the code in these boxes just have well-defined inputs and outputs and don't have any side effects or other connections to the rest of the codebase. Shaders are a perfect example of this. It doesn't really matter if this shader is completely incomprehensible and I rely on the AI entirely for it, as long as it does its job and has decent performance. Shaders are a good example, but really you could treat any modular code with well-defined inputs and outputs the same way. But if we are using AI code for how these boxes are connected, how the data is flowing around the application, how we are handling events and state and so on, the stakes are much higher. And these are the exact tasks that front-end developers are generally well versed in. Most of the work of Angular developers and other front-end devs most of the time involves how to plumb together a bunch of boxes with pre-existing functionality. And I'm not trying to say that in a derogatory way, this task is deceptively difficult. And it's not just something front-end developers do exclusively. I am singling them out because I am a front-end dev and most of my audience is, but this would apply to many other devs as well who deal with code architecture. We can regroup our code by making sure we are cleaning up these connections after charging ahead with AI code. We can consider the best architecture for the codebase as it grows and help guide the AI tools into following that architecture. We can help make these boxes smaller and more modular. Maybe we can even abstract and modularize some of the complexity contained within these connections. All of this will help keep the codebase structured and maintainable, and also help the AI tools do their job more easily, as we can just point it to one of these modular boxes rather than it having to build context about the system more broadly. Even working as a solo developer on this game project, I have felt the time pressure and temptation to rush ahead with AI. But every time I've gone a little bit too far, I've felt the chaos creeping in, and I've had to spend a lot of time refactoring to pull the project back from the brink. This balance has been working well for me, and I feel like I've had massive productivity gains from AI coding tools, as long as I maintain the willpower to slow down and pay my dues in refactoring and babysitting the AI. In other settings, like in companies with much tighter deadlines and external pressures, this balance will be a lot more difficult to justify and maintain. So if you have any thoughts on this, feel free to drop a comment, like or subscribe if you found this video interesting at all, and I hope to see you back here again for the next video.